We're here at the Fintech North Conference with, would you introduce yourself?
Stefan Mully from BNY Mellon.
Mark Scotland, BNY Mellon.
And Andy Durkin, BNY Mellon.
Thanks very much for taking the time to come and talk to us, guys. What was your kind of objective in coming down here today? You've obviously sent a big contingent from your company.
Well, I think really from a BNY Mellon perspective, we've got employees of 50,000 around the world, but in Leeds we've got an office of about 70 to 80 people. But myself, Andy and Mark are really looking at innovation for the office, particularly in Leeds focus. So we was invited to come down here to see what is happening in the fintech arena, because it's within the company we're in the process of opening massive innovation centres around the world, and we're looking to partner with those fintech companies to really evolve our company. So seeing what is out there, what can we get involved with, take that back to the office and see how we can progress as a company in that arena.
Amazing. So tell me about these innovation centres. What does that entail? That sounds exciting.
Well, they're spaces for us to discuss innovative ideas with our clients. We come together, we showcase our products and services. A lot of the innovation tools that we're utilising today, such as Nexon and Digital Pulse, which really touches on a number of the key topics discussed here today, such as big data, bringing that information together and effectively improving our client deliverables and the success in that.
Okay. What does that mean on a sort of day-to-day basis? Are they going to be like fully staffed centres? Is it a thing that's going to operate all the time, or is it going to be like events and conferences and things? Or?
A bit of both, really.
Okay. Yeah, a general mix. So there'll be times where we get clients in and there'll be client-specific events within these centres, partly to showcase what we've got and what we've been working on, and partly to get their feedback and to see what they want, because at the end of the day, it's the clients that drive the business. Okay. And then part for day-to-day of a space for people to go and think about new projects and new ideas that we can work on within the band.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of things have stood out for you today that you might take back and build on?
Well, for me personally, I mentioned some of the key points I took away was relating to big data, also blockchain and decentralized ledger. That is something that's obviously, as been mentioned, a buzzword at the moment. It's certainly something that we're looking at as part of our innovation initiatives. And also a key point relating to millennials. So they obviously generational differences are quite a focus at the moment, and again that is something that we're looking at, how millennials work differently and utilise technologies both from a client perspective but also within our own workplace.
That was an interesting statistic for me. Was there was a comparison of millennials versus Generation X's versus boomers, as it was put on the board, and I would have been interested to see a comparison of those two older generations against the younger generation at the same point in their own kind of
I agree. I think on that topic it was probably slightly misleading, and it's something we did discuss afterwards, that they're saying that the younger generation aren't lending or aren't saving. I think that's probably typical of any young generation. Yeah, indeed, because people don't have the money to save, so why would they be thinking about putting £7,000 in an ISA when they just don't have it? And it's only when you get 10, 15 years down the line that you think, well, I've got some spare cash, what should I do with it? And you start looking at these products. So I think you need to flip that on its head and not say it's necessarily the products that are wrong, but getting that wealth into the right generation is the key.
Okay. And how would you approach that?
I'm not an economist, but
it's a big question.
It is a big question. You've got to find the right jobs for people. You've got to provide jobs and affordable housing for people, so they've got that spare money to put away for a rainy day.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's an interesting way to look at the question, although generationally I'm not sure there is that much difference. We were speaking to somebody earlier on who said that in his kind of younger years, in his 50s, that it was the rule was you just didn't get any credit. You stay away from credit cards. It was not a socially acceptable thing to do. And I think although the motivation might be different now, the process by which that same decision is reached now for these millennials, as we say, it has the same net result, and I can't see that the motivation even makes that much of a difference. Is there even a way to think around that and say, well, that's, it just requires a different approach?
No, I don't think, not necessarily. I think we've probably come full circle back to that point from the baby boomers who didn't borrow. The only time they borrowed was to buy a house. And I think we have gone full circle by learning through the mistakes of our generation, the Generation X, easy, cheap credit and fuel for spending on materialistic things that probably aren't necessary. And people are understanding that isn't necessary.
I also thought it was interesting how you talked about new people within the market, such as your Amazons and so on, being involved in sort of financial things like lending. And it was raised briefly about regulation. I think that's a very interesting topic and an absolute minefield, and it'd be really interesting to see how that pans out. I'm not convinced. One of the speakers mentioned that it would be quite easy for new startups and even bigger organisations like Amazon, Apple and so on to forge a way into the financial markets. I'm not convinced it's going to be that easy.
As a result of regulation?
As a result of regulation. It's going to be a tough nut to crack, so it'll be really interesting to see how that pans out in the coming years.
Definitely. I think especially when the actual process of getting it done is so slow and cumbersome. I mean, Dan Rashkamar was talking about how they've had their application in for 18 months and they're still waiting for approval. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out, but it's still early days, I guess, isn't it? What will you take away from today? What kind of what would be at this point, obviously we're still halfway through the afternoon, but what would be the main learning points, would you say, from today?
I think for me it's encouraging to hear that a number of the speakers are talking about the things that we are thinking about as a company. We keep mentioning big data. I like the quote from the guy, rubbish in, rubbish out. We've got to make sure, we've got this massive amount of data within our company, but we've got to make sure it's good data. We've got to be producing the good results. And also, people are continuously talking about this blockchain. We've got to make sure that we're ahead of the game on that, and we're there. So I think they're the interesting concept.
Yeah, I'd echo that. It's something that we're, from what we've heard today, we're on the right lines. We're involved in these key areas and we're leading in those key areas. And also for me personally, it's been great to hear from different people that we may not have heard of, and also interact and network with other people. And as well, really, I knew it anyway, but just to confirm the fact that Leeds is a really great place for things like digital innovation, and it's taking that business away from London and making the North, and especially Leeds, a place to innovate in the digital arena.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing, isn't it? To see how much is going on in Leeds.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of a lot of this stuff because it's just not some of the stuff that we tend to do business with day to day, but it's really good to see these things happening in Leeds, and there's money being invested for people to start up these fintech companies within region.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It is cool. It's really exciting. I'm a Leeds boy myself, and it's nice to see that decentralisation. I think is really exciting for anybody outside of London. It'll be interesting to see how it goes forward.
That's one cool thing about the digital area, though, isn't it? That it's taken that, it's allowed us to take that away from London, and some of the everything had to be down south. It doesn't. Yeah, it can be anywhere. Yeah. Why not Leeds?
Power to all the people. Yeah. Thanks very much for your time, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.